Are you doing a 72-hour fast? It's a great move for your health. However, most people mess it up and make themselves miserable. Don't be one of them. I made this big mistake for many years when fasting, and it ruined my results and made me feel miserable. In this video, I'm going to share with you the big fasting mistake along with some others that everyone makes when fasting, and I'm going to teach you how to avoid them. But before we get started, I'm Dr. Zyrowski, and as always, it is a pleasure hanging out with you in today's video. We have some great information ahead that will change the game for you as far as how you fast and the results that you get from it. You know, when we look at fasting, there are many big mistakes that are made. For instance, like not preparing ahead of time for a 72-hour fast is a big mistake. You want to make sure you're cutting out caffeine, you want to cut out sugar, you want to increase your protein intake and increase your electrolytes about a week before the fast. If you are somebody who is forgetting to drink plenty of electrolytes while you're fasting, that's a big mistake. It causes fatigue and headaches, and you oftentimes feel pretty miserable when you're in that big long fast. If you're drinking the wrong things when you're doing a 72-hour fast, it will break your fast and ruin it. So we have to make sure that we drink things like water, sparkling water, black coffee, unsweetened tea, and also clean electrolytes during this time if we want to have any other beverage other than water. These are all big mistakes, but here's the big one. The big one that I made for years, and I bet that you're making as well. And it all has to do around the feast and famine cycle. Let me explain what this is all about. The feast-famine cycle is rooted in ancestral biology, and it's supported by modern metabolic science. It leverages the alternation between the catabolic state, which is going to be the breaking down in the body, and the anabolic state, which is basically healing and building the body back up. And we're utilizing this system in order to optimize health, hormone balance, and body composition. Let me break this down for you, how it actually works, so we can talk about the science of it, and then I'll talk about how to implement this into your fasting system so that you get better results, because I'm telling you, it's an absolute game changer. Now, when we look at ancestral biology, these cycles were naturally built in. There was never a time where food was constantly available. It was available for short periods of time. So here you had a fasting situation, which we are referring to as famine. And let's say that there's no food or very little, and your body is relying on fat and stored glycogen for energy. Then there's the feasting time. And this was a time of abundance where the harvest was gathered or there was a successful hunt. And you would have large nutrient-dense meals. And this rhythm shaped metabolic flexibility, and it allowed for your body to efficiently at this time switch between burning glucose for energy and also burning fat for energy. So this feast-famine cycle was important and critical for good metabolic health. Let's break it down a little bit further. I first want to start talking about the fasting state, right? This famine state. Well, this is the catabolic state. This is where our bodies are breaking down. This is where the repair is happening. So anytime you fast for about over 16 hours, you start to activate this metabolic process in the body. The metabolic switch is flipped and you activate autophagy. During this time, you're going to get the damaged cells, the proteins, and they're going to start to break down and become recycled. You're also going to find that this is an internal cleanup system, and it's going to reduce inflammation and reduce the risk of chronic disease. You're also going to get fat oxidation during this fasting period, where glycogen stores drop and the body begins to burn stored fat for energy. This is where you're going to increase your ketone production, which is going to be important for energy, reducing your appetite, and also healing in your body. You're going to find that your insulin sensitivity improves. With no food intake, your insulin levels drop. And this is going to basically reset the insulin receptors and start to reverse insulin resistance in your body. So that is the fasting state. You can see how important that is for reducing the risk of disease, reducing inflammation in your body, and you becoming healthier as an individual, okay? Now that we talked about the feasting state, we're going to talk about the famine state, and then we'll talk about how we need to intertwine these two and what that looks like on a day-to-day basis for you to get good results with fasting. I'm telling you, it's a game changer. So now, as we look at the feasting state, this is an anabolic state, and this is why it's important, because this is where the growth and rebuilding starts to happen. When you reintroduce food, especially proteins and carbs, your body switches into this anabolic state. And we're going to find that we have muscle protein synthesis because the feeding is going to stimulate a pathway called mTOR. And this is a very important growth regulator. It helps rebuild muscle, supports connective tissue, and restore lean muscle mass, which is incredibly important, especially as we age. We're going to find during this feasting state that our metabolism and our thyroid start to rebalance. Extended fasting can actually lower hormones like leptin and thyroid hormones, but a healthy feast is going to start replenishing these signals and start restoring hormone balance. During this time, we're also going to have gut repair and a improvement upon nutrient absorption. After fasting for a long period of time, the digestive tract becomes more sensitive to your nutrients that you're eating. And a nutrient-dense feast is going to help with the absorption of vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. So this is why the feast and famine cycle is important, but it's critical that we balance these two together, because if you only fast, your body is going to have a lower metabolism, you're going to suppress thyroid and sex hormones, and you're also going to break down muscle for fuel. But if you only feast, you can see the problems there, and this is the average person in society today. You risk constant insulin spikes, and this is going to cause you to have all sorts of blood sugar irregularities. You're going to have fat storage, which is going to increase, and this is why so many people are walking around overweight and obese. You're literally just feeding yourself too much. And then you're also going to have no autophagy or fat burning in the body. It will be suppressed. And then this creates a lot of problems for you. So let's go ahead and talk about right now how you implement this feast and famine cycle into your day-to-day routine in order to get the best results. Because like I told you, it's a game changer when you start using this. But before we do, I want to tell you about Health Club. This is a private natural health community that I run. In Health Club, I talk to you about how to lower your cholesterol, lower your blood pressure. I teach you different therapies that you can start utilizing in your home in order to improve your health every day. I teach you how to use the proper supplementation to nourish your body well. In Health Club, I share with you all the cutting edge resources that I utilize every day in my natural health practice. So if you want to join me over in Health Club and you want to start transforming your health today and you like the information like what I'm giving you today, go ahead and click on the link in the description below and join me over in Health Club. I promise you will be very excited with the information that you're able to start implementing every single day into your lifestyle in order to avoid disease and live a better life. So join me in Health Club today. Click on the link in the description below. I look forward to seeing you there. So how do we implement this feast and famine cycle? Well, first of all, let me give you an example, a real life example of what it would look like to be on a famine cycle that is not healthy for your body. Following the ketogenic diet for a very long period of time combined with a lot of fasting, that is over time going to start depressing hormones like testosterone. It can have a negative effect on your thyroid. There's so many things that can happen if you are only in that famine cycle. In fact, many people find that their weight loss plateaus and they can't get any more weight loss because they've been pushing it hard for a long time and now their body has stalled. Well, that needs to be followed up by a feast cycle and it would solve that problem. So a feast cycle that is out of control would be 3, 4, 5 meals a day, overeating calories every day. That's something we don't want either. How do we combine these two? Well, an example of a feast-famine cycle would be along the lines of this. You do a 72-hour fast. When you do this 72-hour fast, you come off of that fast and go into a feast cycle for a day or two. And then after that, you do 16 and 8 for 3 days. And then after that, you do 1 meal a day for 2 days. And then after that, you feast again for 2 days, right? So you basically are implementing these days where you're having an abundance of proteins and carbohydrates and calories, and you're letting your body know that things are okay, that we're not starving, and we're giving our thyroid a chance to rebalance and our testosterone a chance to increase. And so these feast-famine cycles are really where the magic is. If you're just fasting a lot, and this is something that I made a big mistake with early on when I learned about fasting, where you can do like a 3-day fast, and then come off your 3-day fast and go into a 1 meal a day, and then followed by a 16 and 8, followed by another 3-day fast. It's just too much. And I found that it disrupted my sleep, that it made me start to feel sluggish. I had a lot more brain fog. Whereas when I started implementing the feast famine cycle, I felt a lot better. Sleep dramatically improved. I made sure that I was eating properly. And the fact is too, is that I actually started losing weight much easier by following the feast famine cycle versus just the fasting cycle that I was constantly on. Because when I first learned about fasting 10 years ago, I realized how good it was. And I learned about the ketogenic diet at the same time. Well, I started to compare those two. And though there is a beauty of pairing those two for a short period of time, if you don't add in that feast cycle, the big challenge is that your body starts to become diminished over time. Your hormones start to struggle and you don't feel well. I had sleep disruption. I had a lot of issues that I started facing during that time. So the long-term benefits of this feast and fasting cycle is going to be reduced body fat without sacrificing lean muscle mass. Very important. Improved cognitive clarity. And this is going to be due to autophagy and ketones. Very important. If you need to show up on the job like I do, and you need to be sharp of mind, it's important that you're using the feast famine cycle and feeding your brain properly, but also getting those ketones flowing to the brain because they're very helpful. Better hormone balance, especially around thyroid, testosterone, leptin, and ghrelin, which are metabolic hormones, okay? You start to disrupt metabolic hormones if you're fasting too much. You start to disrupt your testosterone or your thyroid if you're fasting too much. So having these feast days where you're putting the carbs back into the diet, it is so helpful for them and actually necessary in order for you to feel well. And there's going to be some people who are far more sensitive to this than others. I know that I'll get some responses on this video that, oh, you could follow the ketogenic diet and fast forever. Some people can do all right with that, but others will do terrible with that. And that's what most individuals are not being told, is that this may not be a healthy system for you to do a lot of fasting and a lot of keto. You need the feast famine cycle, and I believe everybody will do better on the feast famine cycle, including you. Now, it's going to increase cellular resistance doing this feast famine cycle. It's going to help with your mitochondrial health. So we're going to find the reduced risk of disease and improved energy over time. Now, you're going to see also the reduced risk of metabolic diseases like diabetes, fatty liver, heart disease, and so many more. This is the beauty of the feast famine cycle, and this is how you use it. Now, if you want to join me in Health Club, remember, click on the link below and join my natural health community today. As always, it's a pleasure being with you in today's video, and it was fun, and I hope this really helped. Put some comments in the comment section below if you have anything to say about this, and share your story. Have you used the feast famine cycle? I'd love to know. Now, if you love this video, I bet you'll love this one over here next.